Kia ora koutou. I'll get some order now. Ata Māori e koutou. Piki mai, kaki mai, no mai, haere mai ki tēnei hui i tēnei wā o Te Puna Kōrero. Declare this meeting of Te Puna Kōrero open. Members are required that this meeting is being live streamed. Hello, YouTube. And to please use your microphones. I will now ask us to recite our karakia timatanga. He ake ana, he ti, he hoka, he hauhu, ti hei, Blackford's three-peat. Kia ora, everybody. Apologies. We have received no apologies. Have we received any apologies? I don't see any, no. We will move on to item 3, public forum. We have a deputation from Ngāti Toa at the Climate Assembly. Helmut, Alison, Miriam, Gloria, and Mackie. Mackie are here to present on this. They've requested that a copy of the Climate Assembly recommendation report is to be tabled. I'll accept that request. And I understand you all will have had copies of that as well sent in advance of the meeting. So I will ask for our delegation to come forward and speak. There are some standing orders around this, but I'm going to be pretty flexible about, we just need to, the rules pretty much would say something around the ballpark of 20 minutes. However, he taima Māori, things will go on as long as they need to. So please come forward. Who is speaking first? Helmut? Come here if you want, yep. Remember to push the button on the microphone. When it shines green, you're live.
Ka pai mōrena ngā mema o te kaunihere nei o Porirua. Good to be with you, whānau. I'm just going to, especially since you've told us we've only got 20 minutes, I'm just going to briefly introduce our kaupapa. It's good to be with you. Thank you for giving us time. A few years ago, I was approached by some extraordinary people from Te Reo o ngā tāngata, the people speak, who had the brilliant idea of looking to organise a citizens' assembly in the Wellington region. It wasn't a kaupapa I was familiar with, the concept of citizens' assemblies. I convinced them that a better idea would be to do it in Porirua, and that ultimately that conversation led to us agreeing and pursuing a work program that led to us having an extraordinary experience last year with a successful world-first Tiriti-based version of the citizens' assembly format, a deliberative, participative democratic format that had been used around the world. In leading up to the preparations for our Citizens' Assembly, we consulted and met with some of our community leaders from Porirua, and the idea emerged of us concurrently standing up another arrangement, a community leaders forum, which actually ended up preceding by quite some time our Citizens' Assembly. And so we're here today to just briefly talk to you about both of those new additions to our civil society here in Porirua. Both have been extraordinarily successful and beneficial in adding to what's available to the people of this beautiful place, opportunities to lean in, to build coalitions of the willing, and to act together for the benefit of our people and place. So we would like to talk about both, but before we do so, I would like to just acknowledge the support and participation of the Council in this journey, and particularly our koromatu, our Mayor. Nita, we have always been appreciative of your support and attendance at our Community Leaders Forum, and I just wanted to acknowledge that here today by way of introduction. The key of our presentation, though, will be focused around our climate Citizens' Assembly, and we have some of our heroic attendees. One of the last things I'll mention, one of the surprising, perhaps, certainly how strong it was a surprise. Characteristic of our experience was the emergence of our rangatahi and the degree to which they not only embraced the kaupapa, but owned it and led and formed up themselves. And so we're grateful that some of them have come along. I'm sure they're nervous, but they don't need to be, because we're all from Porirua, and it's all good. So I'll stop there now and turn the time over. We've got a small number of speakers who'd just like to touch on some key points, and I'll hand the rākau over to, I think Alison's next up. So kia ora no tātou.
Okay, morena tātou katoa. Ko Alison Corrich, tōku ingoa. Porirua is where I've lived, worked, played and raised a family for more than 3 decades. I was one of the participants in the Climate Change Assembly. I wasn't involved in the lead up to it. I was just representative person that got chosen to take part. It ran from February to May last year, so it was over quite a time frame. The Assembly asked the community a really important question. How do we learn to live in Porirua's changing world together? What stood out about the process was that we were encouraged to think about not what we as a community can do, not just what government or council should do. It was about shifting a mindset from a responsibility sitting with institutions alone, like council, to shared accountability and community ownership. And that's certainly something that we saw over the process. At the beginning, there was a lot of council should do this, government should do this, and I saw that shift over the 8 weeks of people taking responsibility and saying it's a shared responsibility. We were supported by an incredible range of experts. We had international voices such as Walia Jones from the Navajo Nation. We had national leaders such as former Minister Kiritapu Allen and climate scientists such as Professor Peter Barrett from Victoria. We heard from local experts who helped us understand what climate change and climate change resilience means specifically for Porirua. People like Angela Sutherland from PCC, Irene from Waitangarua Community Hub, and Robert and Ashley from Ngāti Toa sharing insights about harbour health. For most, it was the first time participating in this type of democratic process. We weren't just asked for our opinion once and then sent away, like most submissions or democratic processes. We were given time and information over weeks to really understand and interrogate the issues. And that was one of the really key parts of the whole forum, I think. It wasn't always an easy process. With so many different views and voices in the room, I think every one of us felt frustration at times. Mine, for example, was during a small work group discussion where we were supposed to be looking at macro level citywide waste disposal systems, and we fell straight into the vortex of the price of council rubbish bags. But this is democracy in action, and the process allowed everyone's views to be heard, valued and contributed to the final recommendations. And you'll see that those council rubbish bags did make it through. The standout moments for me were when the Te Tiriti Tangata group and the community group, which is the group I was part of, came together. It was quite empowering to find that we were running these 2 separate processes at the same time, and then we came together and everybody's desires and wishes and even recommendations were all on the same page. We all had the same ideas. We wanted the same outcomes for our cities, for our city and for our communities. It really felt like this is a model that all of Aotearoa, and in fact the world, needs. Another moment for me in terms of standout was the last day. I'd noticed a participant on day 1 of the Assembly had voiced very strong views about how youth didn't have the experience or the knowledge to participate in democratic or policy processes or in community forums. And he was a very strong advocate for keeping the responsibility with the adults. On the final day, he stood up and he advocated on the need for youth to have a voice in climate change policy and climate change action and to be formally represented on council. Basically, I think he had heard and listened and absorbed through that 8-week process. He'd seen rangatahi, he'd heard their voices, and it had given him time in a safe environment to think about what the future meant for younger generations and what they needed. What also made the Assembly so powerful was the diversity of people in the room. Mana whenua, local residents, both old and new, and rangatahi. Different experiences, different perspectives, but everyone working together to find a final solution. It created a real sense of shared responsibility for our city. And it also provided a real sense of hope, as it's action that creates the space for hope to thrive. Climate change, systems thinkers talk about climate change as one of our biggest or wicked problem, maybe the most wicked problem we have. And the climate change assembly process allowed the community to be involved in systems thinking of our biggest wicked problem. So that's what, when you see the results, I want you to really think through that, that this is about communities involved in systems thinking as well. The Assembly momentum is continuing in really meaningful ways across the city already. For example, a group of passionate educators from Porirua picked up the challenge and formed an education work stream to explore how climate change learning could become part of the local curriculum. So in February this year, there were 45 principals and teachers from 25 schools and 10 early childhood centres who met at Pātaka and established the Porirua Community of Practice on Climate Education. As a kaiako, or teacher myself, it was really heartening to see such a tangible example of the Assembly's impact. Together, we looked at how local knowledge, mātauranga Māori, and scientific understanding can work together for climate education. And there is a wee bit of a lack of that in this space at the moment, nationally. Most importantly, we sat together as educators and asked a simple question: what are we doing and how can we build on it? What started as the beginning of a network where we're going to be able to share ideas, resources, and support one another to ensure our young people maintain hope in a really difficult world. For me, that shows the real impact of the Assembly. It didn't just produce recommendations, it sparked community action. And it showed what happens when communities are genuinely part of the conversation. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the other special interest groups that have already emerged from this Assembly take their kaupapa forward as well. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, Alison, o tō whakaaro pai. I understand we have another member of the delegation to come up and speak, so please come forward. Haere mai.
Kia ora, Mayor Anita Baker and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today on behalf of the rangatahi who participated in the Climate Assembly in 2025. My name is Gloria, and alongside Miriam and Maki, we are here to share the outcomes of the Rangatahi Day. On the 14th of February 2025, we attended the Rangatahi Climate Assembly, the first assembly to include participants under the age of 18. This assembly was not just a workshop about climate change, but a safe space where young people all around Porirua could feel safe, sharing honest opinions based on the future of not just our environment, but our homes, our heritage, and whether the future generations of Porirua will be able to live safely. To express our vision, we used art, poems, and a song. These weren't just creative activities, they were tools that turned shy individuals into a team of decision makers. For many of us, it was the first time we truly felt heard. We talked about how climate change isn't just about the natural environment, but the areas of Porirua we rightfully call home. We moved past the dooms of climate change and started dreaming about how green and clean Porirua will actually look like if you would listen to us more. Our journey didn't end with the assembly. We have established Future Unity, a group of young leaders born from this process. We are a community of action, ready to work. We have found our voice, found our purpose, and we have created a platform that is here to stay. Thank you for listening to the future of Porirua.
Morena everyone, my name's Miriam and I feel honoured to be here today representing the group of talented rangatahi who joined the Climate Assembly back in 2025. As Gloria explained, the Rangatahi Climate Assembly brought together a group of students from around Porirua, and we found solutions through art, poems and song, as well as discussing ideas in a larger group, which we then wrote down to create one giant brainstorm. My favourite activity was definitely the art block. We were put into groups and told to draw what we thought of when we thought of the ocean, and how we hoped it would look in 5 or 10 years. Everyone had their own unique view, and afterwards we had some amazing artists combine all the ideas into one big piece of art and print it onto t-shirts that became Future Unity t-shirts. It was a day full of laughter and new friendships and shared stories that led to the creation of Future Unity. We are the youth of Porirua with a dream to have a say in the important discussions that affect us, because ultimately we are the people that these decisions are going to impact. And we have ideas. Our group was formed with the mission to have these ideas heard. We have a mission, we have the spirit, and we are ready to make a difference. Thank you.
Kia ora, Porirua. Next member of the delegation would like to come forward.
Hello. Kia ora, ko Makamara te marama tuku ingoa. It's not only an honour but a blessing to be here today, standing not just as someone who cares for the environment, but as a young person. Mid-2021 was when I discovered a strong passion for keeping our earth beautiful and clean. I had the opportunity to meet with former Climate Change Minister James Shaw. At the time, I was only 11, turning 12. Looking back, it's inspiring to see how deeply I cared about the world and to make it a better place at such a young age. I had so many ideas and goals, whether it's to find ways to take waste from landfill, compress it into blocks, and turn it into housing for people who experience homelessness, or figuring out how to reduce smoke and air pollution so we could breathe cleaner air. I didn't just join Future Unity just to sit around and listen. I joined because climate change is already shaping our future, and I refuse to be silent about it. This isn't some far-off problem. It's some far-off problem that only affects future generations. It's happening right now, and it's my generation that will live with the consequences the longest. I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself, a group of young people who cares for the planet and who are willing to stand up and make a change. One of the most powerful moments for me was attending the climate strike that happened last year with Future Unity. Standing surrounded by hundreds of young people felt so powerful, and it wasn't just about attending an event or missing a school day. It's about taking a stand, and in that moment I realized our voices are not small. Together they are loud, strong, and impossible to ignore. The experience gave me hope. It showed me that change doesn't start somewhere far away. It starts with us right now. Going to the wānanga and assemblies has also played a big role in helping me grow. These are not just meetings, they are spaces where I have learned to think more deeply, carefully. I have heard different perspectives, challenge my own ideas, and build confidence to share what I believe. Before I may have stayed quiet, now I feel ready to speak up because I know my voice matters. And that's the thing, young people's voices do matter. In fact, they are essential. We bring urgency, passion, and fresh ideas that the world needs right now. We are not stuck in the old ways of thinking. We are open, creative, and ready to imagine something better. The decision made today about climate change will shape the world we grow up in. The opportunities we have, the lives we live, so it only makes sense that we should be a part of it. Too often, young people are told to wait or even look down on because our age or the knowledge. We are told to sit back and let adults talk, but climate change is not waiting, and neither should we. We do not need permission to care about our future. We do not need permission to speak up. So why speak up? What we need is to keep showing up, keep learning, and keep pushing for change. Being part of Future Unity has shown me that I am not alone. There are so many of young people who care, who's ready to act, and who believes in the future. And when we come together, we share our ideas, support each other, and our voices become something powerful. Because at the end of the day, this is not about climate change, it's about our future. And I believe when young people stand together, speak with purpose, and refuse to be ignored, we do not just talk about change, we become it. Yeah. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora.
It's not about climate change, it's about our future. That about sums it up. I mustn't have had enough sleep last night. I'm feeling a little bit sensitive after listening to that. I would like to conclude, though, with just a couple of observations. One, encouragement, and the other, a word or a challenge to you. There are a lot of insights, in fact, they're legion, from the messages that were just shared, and I would invite the councillors and everyone in the room, actually, to ponder what we've heard and the implications for our own individual and collective decisions and actions as leaders and as members of this community. But lastly, I'd like to leave a word or a challenge which comes to mind. And it's really a challenge that's both personal to you as leaders, but also collective, given the responsibility you share. Ngāti Toa has no business in being alive. Our story is one of existential threats, repetitiously so. That we survive today is as a consequence of the sacrifice of some of our old people who, as we left Kawhia and realised that they were impeding the likely survival of our people, demanded that their lives be taken. True story. And that image is haunting. And so they were left there, and the young proceeded. But then under the leadership of some extraordinary men and women who showed extreme courage, boldness, strategic thinking, willingness to create alliances, and extraordinary competence in what was required of them, the days ahead were won. Our people survived. And in the generations that followed, we look, had to get better sleep. We look back to them and we honour them. Their names are found in the families of Ngāti Toa endlessly. That's their legacy. And so my word was this: who will remember your names? At this moment of existential consideration and risk, what sort of leader will you be? If you need to, metaphorically lie down, as our old people did, that the young might survive and do what needs to be done. If you're up for it, take your taiaha, go forward, fight the battle and win. Leave a legacy, whānau, leave a legacy. That's my word to you all. Kia ora no tātou.
Kia ora. Kia ora mo tō whakaro ko te whakaro pai o te kōrero katoa mo tēnei rōpū i tēnei wā. There is an opportunity for members of the committee to ask questions of the delegation. I'll take a few questions before we move on to the next agenda item. I have Councillor Trellin.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you everyone that has come in here today. It feels really good not to be the youngest person in the room. Really good to see our rangatahi here. Thank you for coming along. I did have a couple questions. First of all, my apologies. The last rangatahi to speak, I missed your name. What was your name?
Maggie.
Pardon?
Maggie.
Maggie. Maggie, do you mind just coming back up here? I just wanted to ask you, and first of all, I wanted to say something that you said really stuck with me. Change doesn't start somewhere far away. It starts with us now. That really stuck with me. Thank you for that. We're talking about this approach around shared accountability, and part of that accountability, obviously, is what we decide to do as a council, and you alluded to the decision that we have to make today. So what I wanted to ask you was, of everything that came out of the Climate Assembly, is there anything in particular that you really want to highlight that you thought this was really important? I really want the council to hear this for the decision that we make today. If there's one thing that we could do, and if you want some support from the other rangatahi here as well, I'll be very happy to hear from any of you.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So I guess if there was one thing for you, the most important thing that came out of the Assembly that you really want to see council do, what do you want us to ask us to do? And this could be about climate, could be about better youth representation. It could be about how we talk to you better. But is there anything in particular you really want council to do?
Probably like more better youth like representation.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, probably starting like a youth committee or that, or at least have like one of the youth members like our age,
Yeah.
to be on like this. Yeah, but yeah, just youth representation will be great.
Yeah, so having a committee with young people
Yes.
that can come and talk to us more often. Cool. Oh, that's a really good recommendation. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I had one other question I wanted to ask about as well. Oh, yeah, I just wanted to know, Gloria, I think it was, you told us a little bit about Future Unity. I wonder if you could just come up. I've just got a question about Future Unity, if that's okay. In particular, I just wanted to know who's involved at the moment, and for other rangatahi in Porirua, if they want to get involved and do this work with Future Unity with you, how can they get involved? Or how would they join up? Do they do that through school? Is there someone they can reach out to?
Like, how can they join?
Yeah, how can they join Future Unity? And if anyone else wants to support on this, happy to hear from anyone.
I think that as a young person, if you have that passion in, just making sure that where you live, like the lands you live, are nice and clean. I guess if you have, I don't know, the bigger the passion, the bigger you'll get noticed.
Yeah.
The more you're noticed, I guess opportunities will come your way. Like for me, I think in year 10, I was really interested in getting out in the community and, just helping our town. And, the more I talked about it, my teacher started giving me opportunities, and going to this assembly was one of them. So when I took it, I just knew that it was the right thing, going to a assembly that helps our community, help shape its view to others.
Thank you. Did you want to add to that, Miriam?
Yeah, also, we're on Instagram. Contact us if you want to come talk to us with the group. We do, we organise get-togethers and brainstorm for like the next couple of months, or like specific tasks that we want to do. We did a beach cleanup at the end of last year. And like Enviro Schools that was one of the things that brought so many of the primary schools together for the assembly. So talk to your school about Enviro Schools. Rebecca is really involved with this. She would love to get other schools to join. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Councillor Chillen. I have two more individuals on the list. I'm going to stop it at that too, so I'll let them happen. Councillor Lawler, then it'll be Mayor Baker.
Thank you. That's a really amazing presentation. You guys did so well. I am a bit like Helmut, very moved by your presentation. So kia ora. I guess the question I'm mulling over, I'm not really sure who might want to answer it, but I guess I'm telling you this is what I'm mulling over. If you have comment, I'd be happy to hear it. What council does is it tends to say, oh, well, this is what council's mandate is. We fix pipes, we deal with recycling and rubbish, and if we can, then we'll fund planting in the harbour. Like, we do the things that council does, that ratepayers pay for. So I guess what I'm interested in is what is council's role and how might we help community groups like yourselves, like others who are running their own take, who are getting on with things. So what is our role as leaders in the community in supporting people who are running their own climate initiatives that isn't about the pipes or the stuff that by law we have to do? Kia ora.
Yeah, what comes to mind is, of course, that all of us are, fathers, mothers, husbands, wives, children, whatever. We're members of community groups. And as well, you've got roles here around a flashed set of tables. And my encouragement to you as leaders is to bring all of yourself and all of the roles and responsibilities you have to this kaupapa, that whatever comes to your heart and minds, to lean into it for this people in this place is what the invitation is. And within that slice that belongs to the ratepayers, then let that slice do is, push. That's really all we're encouraging you to do, is to bring your whole self to this kaupapa, and it's up to you what you do in that slice of yourselves. Oh, kei te pai. Any?
Mayor Baker.
My one is probably for you, Helmut. Awesome. I've loved coming to it, and it's fantastic to have the youth. I think having them run outside council is actually more beneficial from my point of view. I think we hear better rather than being controlled, by other people. Is this group working with the Voice Aotearoa and the Youth Empower Summit? Because I'd like them to be working side by side, and I just want to know from all of you, are you all working together? Or is this something completely different? Because this is coming to Porirua, and I'm thinking... So
everyone's got blank looks on their faces about the organisations you just mentioned, so there's clearly an opportunity for further coalition forming. Yeah.
For youth, and it disturbs me that they don't. So could we make sure they all work together so we actually get really powerful...
I think Jody just got a job. Thank you for that. Bye. Awesome.
No good hui ever happens without homework, so kia ora, Joey. Thank you very much to everyone who has come in to support the delegation and the speakers. It is not an easy thing to speak in a space like this when you are so uncertain of what the process is and the and rules and such. As you could probably imagine, I am the kind of person that, like a good rugby referee, there are rules, but you allow a flowing game. So that's why, because the kōrero is the most important part. As the person who gets to be responsible for the agenda, I get to have the last word before we move on to the next agenda. The words that I have written down during this conversation were accountability, shared responsibility, equity, mangai, voices of people who don't necessarily get to be heard at this table. It's a good reflection to have the rōpū come in today and speak on a particular issue, but there are broader themes that have to, I think, impact all of our decisions around this table. Thank you for reminding us. Kia ora koutou. Let us move on to item 4, conflict of interests. I call for any conflicts of interests that require to be declared. There are none. Notification of extraordinary business. There are no items of extraordinary business. To the confirmation of minutes, we have been asked to confirm the minutes of the Puna Kōrero held on Thursday, the 5th of March 2026. I will move it, seconded by Councillor Trillin. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, no. Abstentions. That is carried. Item 7.1, hearing, deliberations and decision for reserve classifications. I will move the motion that's on notice. Do I have a seconder? Mayor Baker. Now, we are going to hear from two submitters this morning. I just want to remind members that you are able to ask questions of clarification, can't engage in debate. No questions to officers during the hearings, as these will be addressed during the deliberations. A note of any questions will be made. Submitters, when you come to the table, when I call your name, you'll come to the table. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. That includes time for questions. A bell will be rung when you have 1 minute left in your time, and again when your time is up. Our first person to come in and speak on their submission is Edward Coates. Edward, would you like to come to the table? On here are microphones. If you push the button and it's green, that means you're live. Kia ora. Okay, so I'm just to note that there is an item that has been presented by Mr. Coates as well. Once they have this tabled for the meeting, I'm happy to have that accepted as an item, and these will be distributed out to members. You ready for timing? Guys, ready to go? Mr. Coates.
Thank you for the opportunity to present to the council. If I can take my submission A through D as read, and my only comments are strongly in support of the proposal, and just questioning the officer's response in respect of item 12 specifically, that if you make reference to the aerial photograph I've just handed out, the impression you might have got from item 11 is that somehow there's access from the properties on Hanui Road, or at least the drainage reserve, Hanui Road extension, properties 37 through 59, have some sort of practical access down to Porirua Beach Road, which is just basically an escarpment and is completely impractical. So formalising the access down what has been the drainage reserve is clearly a convergence of what is a legal position with a purely practical position of access for those properties. So I'm strongly in support of the proposals.
Thank you very much. That is an opportunity for members of the committee to ask questions of clarification. Are there any for Mr. Coates? Oh, Councillor Lawler.
Kia ora. Ted. It's been a while since you've been called Edward, I suspect.
This is a formal occasion, is it not?
I'm sorry. My apology, Mr. Coates. I'm just trying to understand. So this is your boundary from 45 to 59 on the south?
On the southern side, yes.
Side of the road, right. And so I'm not a geographer, so I'm looking at topography. There is is there some sort of walkway or level area on that end of the land?
There's a small patch of level ground off to the south side between about 47 and 53, yeah.
Right.
And then it falls away into these, I mean, it's very crumpled topography.
And at the moment, where you can actually see a little bit of seal, and you might even see the roof of a car, people are using that road edge for sort of parking and turning and various things, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And we've been on this property. It's a very large and heritage property, but we have been there for 18 years or so, and clearly that access, the drainage reserve access for those properties, or probably 40, some of them have got long access drives in, but some of them are right up against the road, and the road would not function for firefighting, rubbish collection, whatever, without a turning access at the end, and which you can see there. Now, I mean, the point for discussion today is about the reclassification, not what happens beyond that, but clearly we have an interest in that.
Right. I suppose okay, maybe I'll leave it there. You talk about the site as being historic. Are there any sort of, I'm looking for the planning term, are there any sort of notified historic sites within your property? Like I know it's historic, but is there anything that's delineated?
Not beyond. I mean, the actual house is a heritage listed, and the land is in a significant significant urban area, whatever the current term is,
Yeah.
for bush protection over most of it. Our contention is that flatter piece down by the drainage reserve is in fact the most degraded of all of it, but that's the designation that sits over it. There's no historic designation like Historic Places Trust or any of that.
Okay, thank you.
We have less than a minute left, but if anybody has a quick question. No? Mr. Coates, thank you very much for coming in and presenting an oral submission in support of your submission of the matter. Thank you again for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Our next submitter is John Jamieson. Mr. Jamieson, please come back down here again. Come down here. Again, if the light is green, you are live.
Kia ora tātou, ko John Jamieson ahau. I'm not the main submitter here, but my wife is in hospital and she's very sorry she can't be here. Some of the fine points of the bureaucracy of the definition of this lane escape me, but I do know we've been living beside it for about 43 years. And over the 43 years, we've noticed an ongoing increase in the volume of traffic going up and down, in some cases very fast. So our problems are noise, safety, and inconvenience, really. There was at least one major construction project that caused significant disruption. And so our objection, or contingent objection, is that following the reclassification, I can envisage future use for residential development, and that would further accentuate the problem of increased traffic up and down the lane with safety and disruption consequences. I don't want to be a NIMBY practitioner, but this is a source of some concern for Sue and myself. Thanks very much.
I'll take questions, Councillor Trillin and then Councillor Lawler.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify around that. So you're not opposed in principle to this change. It's the qualified concern and letting us know that if this change happens on its own, that's okay. It's just the potential for future issues. That's what you want to bring to our attention.
That's the worry, yes.
Okay, so in principle, you wouldn't be too concerned if we pass this today, provided we take your feedback on board in relation to the future.
Yeah, it's difficult to decouple both those things, but yeah, that's a fair statement. Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, thank you very much.
Councillor Lawler.
Just to clarify, your property is number 26?
That's correct, yeah.
And my understanding is your property has you don't have a driveway because on the other side you can see where people would potentially park at least one car, but you don't have that on your property?
No, I'm very grateful to have from the council opportunity to use a car park which is on Haunui Road. And it's thanks to that car park that we haven't had to put a driveway down in some ridiculous. It'd be very steep and very awkward. So my appreciation to the council for that.
Any more questions, Councillor Lawler? Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Jamieson, thank you very much for coming in today and speaking to this, and our best wishes to your wife and their recovery.
Discharged this morning, I hope. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. So we've concluded the submissions for this item. Before we get to deliberation, I'm going to seek officer comment for the item on notice. Does any of the officers want to speak beforehand?
Good morning. I'd just like to just clarify some aspects. So this piece of land at the end of Haunui Road, it is vested in the Crown, and council have control and manage obligations over that piece of land. At the point, if you today classify that piece of land, local purpose, access, road and access, or then at that point it becomes vested in council, and we have more ability to manage that piece of land. So I just wanted to make that differential. That's not the same for the Bayview aspect of this report. Bayview, the 43B, is already classified. Therefore, council, in this instance, we are reclassifying that piece of land. Any applications for legal use over either of those pieces of land, once if Hanui is classified, is subject to a separate application under the Reserves Act, Section 48. And in that, when or if that gets lodged, there's a number of criteria that you apply to that at that point. For example, if the land is likely to be materially altered or permanently damaged, the right to the public in respect of that reserve, whether they're going to be permanently affected. And at that point, you make a decision on future public notice processes. So I just wanted to just outline that if there was ever a legal request to have legal access over that piece of land, there's a separate process entirely to the reserve classification process of which you're considering today. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Questions for clarification? Councillor Lawler and then Councillor Filler.
Just trying to follow on your commentary about legal access. Thank you. This is quite technical, isn't it? I mean, people drive up and down there every day, so they have illegal access. They have no statutory access. What people are literally driving up and down there probably right now as we're speaking.
Correct. They have informal access over that piece of unformed drainage reserve,
Right.
or classified drainage reserve in the case of Bayview.
So what I'm trying to understand, and I have gone through the report, I'm trying to understand, well, two things really. Why we're acting now. I get that we have a legal responsibility to classify it, but it's been unclassified since the 1930s as far as I know. So why now? And also, I still don't really understand why we would not leave it as drainage reserve. I don't have a view one way or the other, but I'm trying to understand what's driving the change. I mean, there is a giant pipe. There's a series of manholes all the way down there.
Correct. So, this has been on one of those pieces of land, should we fix up the classification for quite some time. We could classify it as drainage reserve, but that's not the primary use to which this piece of land is currently being used for. The primary use is currently for access, which is why I'm not recommending to classify it as drainage reserve. We currently maintain it, the transport team maintain these two pieces of land. So therefore we maintain it like it's access as
that
well.
might be like small m maintain.
Small m. I think the words are low volume access way maintenance.
Any other questions, Councillor Lawler? No, thank you. Okay. Councillor Filler, then Councillor Duncan.
I think you may have answered it a little bit. I was just wondering if we decide to reclassify it, what the ongoing operation costs will be to council, especially with the transport. Will there be any difference or?
My understanding from my transport colleagues is that there will be no change to the current. So we are already doing it. We will continue to maintain these like we currently are.
Okay, so then my next question is, what are possible implications of us reclassifying it to road use?
So I think I pointed out in the report, you could declare it to be road under a section of the Reserves Act, but it doesn't meet the standards of a road. So then you may need to upgrade it to curb and channel. You may need a passing bay. Like there's a whole lot of other factors that will come into if we were going to declare it as road. And so that is why I'm not recommending that.
Councillor Field?
Just one last one. Is there, if we do what you recommend, the recommendation, is there a risk of, what the second submitter said around Mr. Jameson, thank you, Councillor Trillian, around redevelopment, or is that likely to happen?
So as I pointed out in my report, we did have an application lodged last year for an easement for access over the Hanui piece of land. We have not accepted that because it's not vested in us. We do not have the powers, council does not have the powers to consider such an application for a piece of land that is vested in the Crown and we only control and manage. So yes, we could obtain an application, but at that point we would consider it under both an RMA perspective or under an easement under the Reserves Act instance.
Through the chair, I can just add on the RMA district plan space with regards to Pukerua Bay. You may recall that it wasn't recommended as a high density or even medium density area because of it didn't meet the criteria around hazards, etc. So our district plan doesn't enable the same level of intensification at Pukerua Bay as it does other suburbs in the city.
Any other questions? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Yeah, interesting report. I actually took a drive up there to have a look at the road because I couldn't figure out how it's sort of set. And it's bloody awful access there anyway. By doing this, is there, Mr. Jameson talked about the speed on it. Is there any speed restriction on there? Is there signage there to tell people how fast they can go on it?
No, there isn't.
No. Okay, and by doing this, then that makes it possible for us to put signage up there then, does it?
I'd need to check back on what we can and can't do under the Reserves Act.
Okay. And lastly, would this then open this up for Wakakatahi subsidies if we actually...
Still not a gazetted road, so some of those regulatory things we still can't do.
Any other questions? Does anyone want to make any comment on this one? Okay, I think we've got to where we need to get to. So thank you again for officers for coming in. Thank you to our submitters. I think we've covered everybody. We're ready to go to a vote. I will put that now. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Abstentions? That is carried. Thank you. We will now move to item 7.2, Climate Change Strategy Refresh. I'll move the motion. I'll have a seconder from Councillor Trillian. I'm going to invite officers for comment. Again, seek questions, and then if anyone wants to have comment, just let me know in advance, if possible. Okay, here we go.
Through you, Mr. Chair, kia ora tātou. I'm Helen Oram, Manager of the Climate and Environmental Planning Team. I'd just want to also express my thanks to Ngāti Toa and Helmut and Jodie in particular, who came along and spoke, and the members of the Porirua Assembly on Climate. We were very appreciative that the Porirua Assembly on Climate came at a really good time for us in terms of hearing the community's climate voice, and we were able to then incorporate into our recommendations in the climate strategy that that we had heard what they said and the things that were within the scope of Council's activities. I'm very proud to present the refresh of our climate strategy to you all today. This is the tool that we use to achieve the Council's climate strategic priority. It's a whole of council effort, so we've got a number of managers here behind us. We've had all these people involved in formulating the climate actions, which then they need to achieve in terms of each of their teams, and we hope that these things will become business as usual as we become more mature in this space. Just like to hand over to Baptiste, who has ably led this work across council, for a few comments.
Good morning. Providing some context first, so reminding everyone that in June 2019, Porirua City Council declared a climate emergency, and in response, the Porirua City Climate Change Emergency, Rotaki o Te Ao Huri Huri 2021-2024, was adopted in December 2020. Climate change, as Helen mentioned, remains a key strategic priority for the Council, with the goal of building towards a low-carbon city and proactively addressing the challenges of climate change to protect the social, economic, and environmental well-being of our residents. As the initial strategy has now lapsed, a refreshed draft has been developed. This refresh accounts for significant international and national shifts in climate science and policy. Notably, recommendation from the Ngāti-Toa-led Climate Assembly have been analysed and integrated into the action plan, where they align with the Council's scope of work. Following a presentation of the draft at a Council workshop on the 19th of February 2026, this paper seeks approval of the refreshed climate change strategy, and if approved, officers will begin socializing the strategy, first by updating Climate Assembly representatives on the outcomes of their contributions, and then by publishing online the refreshed strategy for the wider community. That's all.
Thank you very much, officers. I'll take questions for and comment. Councillor Trillin.
Yeah, I've got questions and comment. I guess I'll start on questions very quickly, and I'll premise this by saying I'm coming from a position of I support the recommendations in the report, but I did just want to ask in relation to the second set of options we're looking at around community consultation. If we were to vote to do more community consultation, provide an extra opportunity for community members to voice their opinions, what do you expect that would look like, and is there any merit in us giving good consideration to that, do you think?
I think it would look like going out to the community and using the, I think, is it called the Hear My Voice platform to obtain people's opinions. It would, of course, have to go through the special consultative procedure under the Local Government Act, and then we would hear back submissions, and we would then you'd be able to decide on what went forward. Part of the reason we haven't recommended this is because we have had a significant amount of time since the lapse of the other strategy, and we've been working on this, and we have waited to receive the community's voice in terms of the Climate Assembly, which we felt was sufficient because we've been able to use those recommendations and put the ones that are in scope into the strategy. So that's why we have recommended as we have. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does, thank you, and that makes a lot of sense to me. And I guess just for context, that would obviously require a bit more work, resources, time. How much rough time delay would we be looking at if we decided to go out and talk to more people?
I suspect it would be in the area of 6 months, something like that.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's very helpful. I have comments as well. Should I dive into those now? You want to do all questions first, Chair?
Look, I'm happy for you to give comment at this stage.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Yes, a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Yeah, first of all, just to say thank you very much for this work. I'm really happy with this report overall. I'm really glad to see it coming before us, and in particular, I think it's important that we do get into this right now because I want to see some great recommendations come to us for the LTP next year, and that's what I'm most looking forward to. I agree with the introduction of the new principle of we will take an equitable approach. I think that's a really important aspect of climate justice and a just transition. I think it's entirely appropriate. So thank you for adding that in as well. In relation to the key actions and engaging with the younger generation, I think that is a very good focus, both on its own merits and that young people will be impacted by the most by decisions on climate justice. But also I think we heard today from the rangatahi that came and spoke, this is actually a really good way for us to get young people involved in the business of council as well. And so while it's good on its own merits, I actually think if we have an interest in engaging more young people, getting them involved in council processes, taking something like this that we know that there is passion about amongst young people makes a lot of sense. I do think that's entirely appropriate. I know that we're going to, it's flagged in the report that we'll look at some extra workshopping around specific reduction targets. I think that's entirely appropriate. I do just want to flag, though, that I do think it's important that in addition to the long-term 2050 goals, that we do have a really clear 2030 goal. And the reason for that is I think we need meaningful short-term goals to ensure that we are building and maintaining momentum, not just sort of kicking the can down the road. And if we were to focus only on goals further out, I think that it alluded in the report the option of potentially a 2030 or a 2035, that maybe that wouldn't necessarily bring the same level of urgency if we waited an extra 5 years. So flagging that, but we'll workshop it further. And then on the third major element around defining financial risks from climate-induced extreme weather events, from a council perspective, I think this is actually probably the most important part of the policy. Consistently over the last 7 years, when I've had conversations around climate resilience and adaptation with members of the community and right across the political spectrum on this when we're talking about climate change, the thing that people agree on the most is let's not make those water mistakes again. Let's not do that exact same problem. And I think this is a really good opportunity for us to identify the financial risks around the things that we know are coming, get out ahead of those. And we know that by doing that, not only is this important to protect our people, protect our homes, and protect our infrastructure, consequentially protecting our finances as well, this is the most fiscally responsible thing to do. So overall, very, very happy. I think the options that you've recommended, they are the do something options, and that's why I'm in favour of them. We don't need any more talk on this. Let's get going. We'll have further reviews in the future. We can use that to inform them. So thank you very much, and I will be supporting all of the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Trillin. Councillor Lawler.
Yes, thank you. That looks like a lot of work has gone into this, so thank you for that. I have some questions, so maybe I will just get stuck into those. Page 34, it talks about a new national climate change risk assessment that's due in August. Do we have any sense of whether that's likely to be significantly different to the previous one? A second risk assessment due in August 2026. So it's your page 6, I think.
That's done through the Wellington Regional Leadership Committee, that piece of work, and it has been delayed somewhat. So I don't think we've got quite enough information to be able to answer that question confidently. Sorry.
Thank you. Our page 36, your page 8. On the opportunity number 3, we work with our communities to build resilience to climate disruption. It would be good to understand what's in that opportunity. I mean, I'm aware of Mr. King's work to sort of run the pilots on climate adaptation, but is that essentially it, or is there more bundled in there?
I'm going to ask James to come up and speak to that.
So, sorry, which is the question?
So on page 8 of the report that identifies 3 opportunities, the third one is we'll work with our communities to build resilience to climate disruption. I suppose I'm trying to understand, I'm aware of your work.
Yeah.
Is that about your work, or is it about a broader sweep of work across council?
Yeah, this is something that I've been thinking about in the adaptation pilots, which council agreed to in December last year. they have a scope in terms of council assets within these two communities, but there's wider issues around that. And I've been thinking a lot when I've worked in sort of project management and big policy projects before, you get a lot of scope creep coming in, things could easily spin out and become problems because you haven't managed that. So within that sort of council assets one, we also have to be mindful of people's own property and what role the council has or does not have in terms of what advice or things we could point people towards so they could take responsibility, have agency around their own land if they're property owners and things like that. So there's a wider sort of, there's my work and then there's a sort of a wider adaptation discussion and it flows into the mitigation side as well.
Thank you.
Cool.
I have some perhaps comments or questions about the sort of link to bigger strategies. I look at page 41 and it's talking about reducing current and future climate pollution from transport and Porirua. So all of the initiatives there look sensible, but for me it begs the question of a transport hierarchy. Do we have a transport hierarchy? My understanding is cities that are dealing sort of with some determination around climate change have a hierarchy that says we'll put pedestrians first, we'll put cyclists second, we'll put public transport third, we'll consider roading and private vehicles last in our hierarchy.
So, thank you. So we do have we are looking at a council transport strategy at the moment to bring to you within the next 12 months. So the short answer is no. However, through all of the work we do with Kiwi Rail NZTA in particular, we do very much focus on what we know to be the active transport and public transport priorities for Porirua. Very topical with State Highway 59 in Northern Growth area at the moment, but there is a bit of a lag with our transport strategy catching up to where we know we need to be.
Thank you. And I guess my other sort of small thing, but I think for me it's about do all of our strategies link to this? Because I will ask the question later, but it comes up here too about solar panels on council buildings. I would have thought there was an opportunity to put solar on the Cannons Creek Library, but I understand it's not currently in scope. So for me, that's about, do we have bigger strategies around all our new buildings will go solar, our transport hierarchy will prioritise climate. So, because it feels to me that the strategies we link to this appropriately are our community wellbeing strategies, like Pacific, Māori youth, but not sort of council's core business in terms of the work we do.
I'll just ask Vic, our property manager, to speak to that.
Actually, thanks, Helen. I think it's a bit broader than that, so I'll ask Nick to talk to it.
Yeah, it is a bit broader than that. So through the chair, and thank you, Councillor Lawler, the climate strategy is designed to be weaved through all council's work. So we take a view that it is embedded in every staff member's work program. And so that's why you've got all the transport team here, the property team. It's not operating in isolation. It's the one that is designed to work across the organisation. So the examples you're talking about, while you might not see that specific action in here, it's part of the culture, if you like, of the staff's thinking around this strategy gives that overall guidance, but actually the requirement is all staff are putting their programs through a climate lens, and this strategy, whether it's specific actions or it's daily operations and learnings that are all working towards that lower emissions, that building towards, no matter what part of the organisation. And that is sometimes a challenge, making sure that we're all communicating well to join that, but the strategy is designed to do that. I hope that answers your question, and maybe you might want to add something.
Just to add to that, Councillor, so we are bringing you all the asset management plans in May and June this year. All of those have the flavour of climate adaptation in particular, but mitigation as well built into them. So there's going to be a recurring theme for you later on this year. And you're going to have trade-offs to make, right? So we can't do everything that we would like to do, but you're going to have to make some trade-offs between cost, affordability and level of service. and risk, sorry.
Any other questions, Councillor Lawler? Okay. Mayor Baker and then Councillor Wikapi.
It's not a question, it's a comment I'm just going to make. This is great, and it was awesome having the kids in here today. The structure was also done by adults, Josh, so I'm happy not to go out for any further consultation because it was covered completely by everybody. My only issue is there are no budgets attached, and I'm really scared about the budgets going forward for our ratepayers and who can afford it and who can't. And we are going to have some tough decisions ahead. So I'm happy with this, and I'm pleased it's going over everything and all departments in council. But we all have to be very aware that we are sticking under our 4% for, it's pretty tough out here at the moment. And this is awesome, but we also have to keep it below. So it's not really, I'm not having a go. I think you've done a great job and it was awesome having the kids in, but we have to sit here and realise that our ratepayers have to pay for this in the long run. So we just got to be a bit careful. But thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Councillor Wikapi.
Thank you. Not so much a question, possibly a request and comment, if I may. Thank you. Favourite part of my meeting is actually public participation, because I think that it just opens up your mind a little bit more. And where I'm going with this is in the actual draft refresh, which I have read, in the principles part, again, we will partner with Ngāti Toa, which is fabulous. We all know how I love that word. What I'd like to see in there, and from listening to Helmut, is the reason why, because with Helmut's Kōrero, he was talking about the story as to how we have got here. And I think that's quite important to bring up in something like this, to share the story as to why Ngāti Toa are involved, why we are working with them, why we have refreshed this strategy. Obviously, I don't want it to go on and on and on, but if we can refresh the draft refresh to include that, that would be much appreciated. Again, because listening to the community, and in particular Helmut, that we take the sacrifice of many of us that have gone before us for granted is actually a big thing. And it's a huge learning curve for everybody going forward, which is why the voices of the rangatahi are incredibly important, and we appreciate them. But I'm happy with this as it is. I don't feel like we need to go out to consultation, and I just want to acknowledge the work that our staff, and in particular our mayor, has done with this over the years. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Wikapi. Councillor Leggett.
Yes, thank you for this. I just want to, on the same topic that Mayor Baker was talking about just a few minutes ago, I just want to be doubly sure that, because there are a whole plethora of recommendations here, and a lot of it I see is there'll be costs added by stealth, which I think we need to be very aware of as councillors. I just want to make sure that when you come up with some final recommendations, there are going to be costs, and we will be very clear about what the costs are, or the costs that will be levelled on our ratepayers, so that we can make some decisions that are sensible for everyone, given things around levels of service and those sorts of things. So I want to be doubly sure that we're going to get that as a result of this before we make our decisions around long-term plan.
Just confirming that is the question part you can answer, officers.
I can't. Thank you, Councillor. The only place where you get to make trade-off decisions is through the LTP. So we will not be doing anything by stealth. We'll make sure everything comes to you for trade-off discussions through the LTP.
Sorry, can I just make a comment? When I say by stealth, I wasn't saying those costs will be added by stealth. When you say you're going to inculcate it in the culture of the organisation, that's when costs get added in terms of, people's jobs and all the rest of it. Well, I don't want to, maybe we do this outside. I wasn't saying that the costs of doing a particular recommendation wouldn't come to us, but other hidden costs in terms of staff, etc., do get added along the way. So that's what, around culture, that's what I meant.
Through the chair.
clarify, the culture term is about leadership. So that is, I guess, talking to Helmut's point around leading our thinking around how to be efficient, how to assess what we're doing is what I was referring to around culture. Certainly not adding staff or any of that kind of thing, Councillor Leggett.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, sorry, I've got you, Councillor Duncan. You're ready to go.
I just want to thank Ross there for their word inculcate. I think great use there. But my question, as I read through this, it's pretty comprehensive. Are we 100% sure that our science is absolutely there at the top? Are we? Because I think 60 years ago, probably they had similar thoughts then, and we're living with the consequences of it now. Are we that confident in our science?
I think, yeah. I think in this case, we're actually following best recommendation from central government. And that's why we're sticking to the scenarios that are being pointed at. Some of them just highlight that we should probably use a specific scenario that show like high emissions in the future. And the reasons they do so is mostly because they want to make sure that if we invest in any infrastructure, we'll make sure that it's worth in the long term.
Any other questions, Councillor Duncan? Anybody else? I'm going to go for the last word and then we'll go to the vote. First of all, thank you to the officers for preparing the item on notice, and also this journey which included the workshop earlier last month. And I think it's also important to highlight the mahi of the Climate Assembly, who have provided rich and deep and meaningful feedback as individuals who, like us, will all have to live with the implications of climate change. I do also want to make the point that the Mayor and others have made around the cost implications. I note that in this documentation, as has been mentioned before, around the issues of equitable approach. Equity, I think, is the most important framing in terms of talking about cost, because there is the trade-off that will have to happen inevitably as we debate this later on, as we get into LTP, around cost now versus cost later. And that is the burden that sits upon us as decision makers. Finally, I want to echo the points made by Councillor Wehapi with regards to the way that we work through this as a true shared partnership with Ngāti Toa as mana whenua. I note that in the draft refreshed strategy preamble, it actually says presented by both Ngāti Toa and the Mayor, which I thought was a good way of pointing out this is a co-written document in terms of a collective view. I would think that that is a positive sign of improving that nature of reflecting the relationship as we lash two waka together into a haurua, charting a course together. So, done. Let's get to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. Abstentions? Carried. Congrats, everyone. Let's move to item 7.3. Alteration to condition for designations, transmission Gully and Kenepuru Link Road. I have moved the motion. Is there thank you, Councillor. Love it. We will take some officers' comment. The item obviously is on notice.
Kia ora, I can take the paper as read. Happy to take any questions. It's a really minor administrative change that NZTA have asked us to process. It affects Greater Wellington Regional Council, and they have agreed with no longer being a certifying body. So it should be minor. It is minor and administrative, and we're just seeking your approval, please.
Are there any questions from Council? No questions, no comments. I think it's been made very clearly by officers that this is a relatively minor and technical change. So I will go straight to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Abstentions? Carried. Thank you, everybody. That brings to a conclusion the agenda for Te Puna Kōrero. Obviously, we have a workshop on after this, and at the conclusion of our mahi, we will do our karakia whatamukinga. So for now, see you later, everybody.
We're stopping for morning tea, are we? Yeah. Break for morning tea for 15.